Hello again from WJ Live. I'm Josh Manning, Deputy Managing Editor of Assignment here at the Western Journal. Joining me today, we have two absolutely fantastic interns. It's Josh and the Interns Day. On my right, we have the lovely Sarah Hone. On my left, Deborah Van Kampen, whom I affectionately call Deborah Van Helsing. And it's so bad that I now have to routinely ask her what her actual last name is. She even worked on my team for a while, and I got so used to Van Helsing that's what. And I think even in our company messaging system, I think you show up as Deborah Van Helsing, don't you? Which is cool fantastic.
I really should just legally change it.
You should. You absolutely should. You absolutely should. All right. Welcome to WJ Live. We're so glad to have you here. Lots going on today. Sadly, there are only three of us, and so there's only so much we can get to. A couple of other things that we are working on the Western Journal right now, just so you know about it. We have got 3 states now where GOP electors are trying to vote, despite the Democrat electors being the ones who were officially expected to vote in those states. Pennsylvania, I think Wisconsin and Nevada. We have also got interesting stuff going on as far as an analysis of a Michigan county and Dominion there. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. We're also going to be talking about new efforts to recall Gavin Newsom in California, which that should be a lot of fun. But first off, if you have been anywhere on the internet over the last few days, you have seen Time's Person of the Year selected, which was not a person, it was multiple people.
Yep.
And it was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And then I've seen versions of it with Chinese President Xi in there as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if those are real or photoshopped.
Photoshopped,
but
probably.
anyway, Sarah, you have got a problem with Time's selection. So tell us about that.
I do, and you know what? I think a lot of people do as well. So Time Magazine did decide that their Person of the Year was going to be Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I have a tweet that I wanted to insert of the cover. And it's interesting to me that they chose 2 people instead of usually they choose only one person. And a lot of people were very frustrated with this decision. A lot of people on Twitter and Facebook were calling this inappropriate, considering the fact that we are in a pandemic. So, and that's just
why would that be inappropriate? Why would that be? What would the pandemic have to do with it? The pandemic?
I just think that me personally and a lot of other people believe that the healthcare workers should have gotten the spotlight on this cover. And I think that was totally inappropriate to give it to 2 people who have not risked their lives for, everyday Americans.
Joe Biden came out of his basement at least a dozen times
He
during
did
the
it
campaign.
a couple
You don't
times.
think he's frail, he's old, he's weak. You don't think that's risking his
Not
life?
quite. Not like this.
All right.
I just wanted to highlight one particular story that I think resonates with a lot of Americans and why a lot of people believe that healthcare workers should have gotten this cover. Celia Marcos, I don't know if you guys heard of the nurse that saved a patient in April who had breathing problems from COVID. And she did not have protective gear at all, didn't have the right mask, and she jumped in and saved this man's life, and she ended up catching COVID and passed away 14 days later.
Oh, my.
And so it's stories like that, and there's many others where these healthcare workers really put their lives on the line, and I really think that they deserved this title. So my question to you guys, do you think that this was an appropriate cover for Time? Do you think that they were being politically biased to the point where they were trying to make Trump look unpopular, or what do you guys think they were trying to do here with this?
I think it really speaks to the image that they wanted to portray as a company and as a magazine. I think that they wanted to remain as politically correct as they could. And I think that by choosing Biden and Harris, they were making a statement that says, we don't support what these violent, ridiculous Trumpists are saying, and we do not, we want to say publicly that we are in support of Biden and Harris. And I think that that is something that it, like, as you said, is really unfortunate considering the many, many other people out there that could have gotten the award.
Yeah, and it's not just healthcare workers. I mean, everyday Americans who are going to work during this pandemic and putting their lives on the line for other people. I mean, police officers, firefighters, teachers. I think that maybe they should have gotten some attention too. So I agree with you, Deb.
Small business owners, business owners
exactly.
who have tried to keep people employed,
That are struggling to
despite
stay afloat right now.
despite horrible lockdowns and those things. Yeah, there were lots of other options there. Can we put the cover back on screen? I just want to see it again. So we're talking about this. I think the cover is interesting. It strikes me that Time. Well, frankly, I can't believe the racism and the sexism we're seeing with this cover. The minority woman put in the back behind the man.
Dare they?
In the shadow. It looks like he's casting a shadow over her. If you look at her lovely cheekbone there on the right.
Absolutely appalling.
Good gracious, a wrinkle's starting to show up there too. But then that's sexist to say as well, because you wouldn't say that about Joe Biden. But they've got her behind him in the shadows. It's offensive. It's just offensive. Just remark. Okay, you can take him down. Who wants to? Nobody
wants to see
look at
that for more than 10
long.
seconds.
Yeah, that long.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I'm not surprised with the choice. Trump was the choice in 2016. It's 2020. He had just won. Trump maybe makes a little bit more sense because he had truly shaken things up. He was not supposed to win. He did win. He was not supposed to win this time. A lot of people say he did win this time anyway. You could argue that putting them on the cover of Time was just another effort to legitimize their win and for Time to say, hey, no, look, they are president and vice president. I don't know about this. Is probably going to be an unpopular opinion. I don't know about doing the healthcare workers. Norm Macdonald has a bit that he does where he talks about teachers being overrated, and that's a super dangerous bit to do. And I love Norm. I don't want to come off, healthcare workers, who cares about them? I don't mean it like that. To some extent, not to some extent, it is sort of in the job description. But of course, there are plenty of things that police officers do and soldiers do that are in the job description that we want to really honor them as well. Yeah. So certainly it's reasonable to suggest that, oh, hey, these folks would maybe be good on the cover. What is interesting, though, is when you look, so the media absolutely loves talking right now about how burdened the hospitals are, how they're overflowing. Oh my gosh, we're having to set up mobile morgues and all of these things. But what's interesting, I found a piece about Dr. Wilma Wooten. Dr. Wilma Wooten.
That's an interesting name.
She is the San Diego County health supervisor, and local media really went after her last week. She held a press conference last week, and she said she didn't know what the hospital capacity looked like this year compared to last year. And so the media really went after her on that. The problem is last year's figures probably aren't totally tabulated yet. The last good year we have is 2017-18. But she made a very interesting comment. She said that their current capacity is, quote, very close to where they were in the 2017-18 flu season. So I hear what you're saying. It would also irritate me, though, a little bit if they put them on there this year, because if they put them on there, this year, it would seem they maybe should have done it back in 2017 and 2018 as well. Yeah. Now, Justin Hart, he has been following hospitalization rates. And we talked with you guys about this back in November. I went back and pulled some of the stats Justin had pulled back in November. Now, this is not for this month. This data is about a month old. He pulled it from the American Hospital Association Data Hub and the HHS Protect system. And what is fascinating is that at that time, hospitals across the country, the average utilization rate was about 70%. That was about 5% higher than in 2016, 2017, and 2018 on average. Now, what was super interesting is there were plenty of places where the hospitalization rate was actually lower than the average of those years. So now, again, we've seen an increase. I'm not saying that this data is 100% correct right now. What I am saying is that I think it's being played up by the media. I think a lot of these numbers, a lot of the hospitalization rates look a lot like they do when we have a super bad flu season, which does happen from time to time. It happened then. So now the deal is this is a lot more deadly than
That's
the flu.
what I'm thinking.
So you risk, there's a higher risk of, you treat somebody, you get exposed. There is a higher risk of dying, especially if you have comorbidities. But what we do find is that the absolute worst, where this really tends to be deadly, is folks who are 70 and above,
Or
people
with
who have two
pre-existing
comorbidities
conditions.
or more. That's where you start seeing really, really bad stuff. I'm not sure how many nurses out there are 70 and above, how many nurses have multiple comorbidities. Certainly doctors out there 70 and above. So it's an interesting thing. I think probably it's more than anything else just trying to legitimize the outcome of the election that has been called.
Yeah.
And just their way of kind of jumping on board and saying, hey, they did win. They are president and vice president.
Yeah.
Trying to push it on us a little bit more, just like the media.
Yeah, because really, what is remarkable about Joe Biden at this point that he I guess he deserves something. He has won after running time after time.
We have to give him a little something.
I was watching old. My life is how boring my life is. I was watching really old Letterman clips over the weekend from the mid 1980s, and there's a comic on there named George Miller. George Miller cracked a Biden plagiarism joke back in the mid 80s, and referring to him as someone who was wanting to be the president. So, if nothing else, he maybe deserves a longevity award. He's been running longer than anybody else.
Yeah.
But you talk about otherwise a completely milquetoast, problematic, boring, conventional candidate. The interesting person here is Kamala.
Yeah.
She's far more interesting, but
Definitely.
she's the vice president. They've got her back there in the shadows and everything. So
Yeah.
I think it's a political move. It's a boring move. It's a boring choice.
Kind of saw it coming, though. I mean, when I saw that they
not
had the top
unexpected.
picks,
Yeah.
I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah, so and then, of course, there have been people tweeting out, oh, never forget that in the 30s, Time picked Hitler as their man
or Stalin.
of the year.
They had Stalin, too.
I didn't see the Stalin
Yeah.
one. And I'm sure I don't remember for sure. I'm sure those were floating around in 2016 when Trump was picked, too.
Right,
I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. It's a cute way to score cheap points. But but kind of a truly unremarkable pick. There's nothing interesting about it. Nothing. I mean, what could a Time article say, or Newsweek? Was it Newsweek or Time? I can't even remember.
It was Time.
What
Yeah.
could that article say that we don't already know, unless they brought out Hunter Biden's financial record?
It's
that would be
predictable.
that would be what's interesting.
It's really predictable, and I think it's really interesting. I read this online earlier. Since the 1980s, they have lost half of their subscribers. I believe it was 2.3 million subscribers that unsubscribed. So, I mean, they're just predictable. There's nothing interesting,
Yeah, so that raises an interesting question. Journalism is just taking it on the chin right now. Traditional legacy media is, the New York Times was in really bad shape until Trump got elected. Then their subscription numbers skyrocketed. It's going to be very interesting to see what they look like in a post-Trump world.
Yeah.
But okay, talking about shifting from the expected, which was that, to something a little bit less expected, but absolutely delightful. It looks like Californians are finally fed up with Gavin. Tell us about it, Deborah.
Absolutely. So this past week, the comedian and actor Rob Schneider has been tweeting in support of a petition to recall Gavin Newsom as the governor of California. And this petition has gotten over 750,000 signatures. Actually, when I looked today at 2:30, it was at just over 800,000. And so that's half of the 1.5 million signatures that they need to be able to hold a special election to replace Newsom. So this is really interesting. This hasn't happened since 2003 when Arnold Schwarzenegger took over for the Dem governor at the time. And so a lot of people are calling for Newsom's replacement because a ton of really major companies in the area have been leaving, such as Tesla, Hewlett-Packard, and Oracle. So what I wanted to ask you two is, do we think that they're going to be able to pull it off? Do we think they're going to be able to get enough signatures to kick Newsom out?
Well, I hope so.
You're a Californian.
I really
You're
hope
a Californian,
so. If I
or
ever
at
have
least
to go back.
a native.
Yeah.
I
A native
am.
from there, yeah.
I would love to see him gone. You know, nothing against him personally, but
Oh, I've got plenty against
well,
him. But
I
go
want to
ahead.
say
Be gracious.
level-headed. You know, yeah, but
as much as possible, be at peace with all
Yes.
men. Very
right.
gracious.
I try to live by that. But this guy is an awful leader.
Absolutely.
He destroyed San Francisco to begin with. We've already seen his track record of what he's done, and he's slowly destroying California.
The
So-
plant life in San Francisco, though, on the sidewalks has never been better fertilized. I mean, we need
It's
to give
true.
him credit. It
man.
flourishes. The
Absolutely.
manure on the
You're not wrong.
sidewalks.
You're not wrong.
Yeah,
They've created a new
it's
fertilizer.
a very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
there
I've
was a
witnessed
piece.
that.
There was a piece a couple of years ago. I want to get back to this. There was a piece a couple of years ago saying that the people they would hire to scoop the feces.
Yeah.
So they were making $80,000 a year.
No way.
$80,000 a
Only
year.
in
That was
California.
a couple of years ago that was being reported.
man.
So anyway, okay, keep going. So,
No, that
but
was
you're
good,
from
though.
California. You're from
Yeah.
California. You think he's a terrible choice. You think they need to pull him back.
Yeah, you know, I mean, especially with what's been going on with how he's handling the coronavirus pandemic, he's acting very much like a dictator. And we've talked about this a couple times before. But, I mean, I just got off the phone with my dad, and he said, we have a curfew now. Most people know that in California. You have to be home by 10 p.m. He's awful. He's an awful leader. He's overstepped his bounds as a leader, so...
Well, the virus, we do know the virus gets sleepy after 10.
Yes.
And so
Right.
Exactly.
this is a case of working smarter, not harder.
There it is.
Who needs vaccines? I mean, you just
There's
lock everybody up 10
Definitely
o'clock
sound
at
science
night.
behind that.
Yep, because science.
Yes.
I mean, what a joke, this idea. So there was a story earlier today. I can't remember if WJ is covering it or not, but I've seen it elsewhere. There's a school where the wrestling program, you can wrestle.
I saw that. I saw that.
Greco-Roman. This is
Yeah.
not, this is
But you
not
can't
WWE.
handshake, right?
This is exactly.
Yeah.
cannot
Full body
handshake.
contact, faces in each other.
No
You're-
handshaking.
Yeah,
Oh,
but you
my
can't shake
gosh.
hands. You gotta sanitize between.
Hands are where all the
mean,
germs
it's
are. They're not
just-
anywhere else on the body.
And then there was a story. There was a story late last week. I think this was in the UK, where students were utensils. Were
Oh
dangerous.
my gosh, this one gets me
Utensils
going.
are not sanitary, even
Oh,
when clean.
no.
So they're having the kids eat with their hands. So there were kids eating basically mashed potatoes, some horrible British food, eating
Oh, no.
the equivalent of mashed potatoes with their hands. So
Ridiculous.
nothing says
Oh my goodness.
clean and sanitary like your whole
Like a
hand
child's
stuck in your
hand.
mouth.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
We know their hands are dirty. Parents know that.
Yeah,
Very nice.
exactly. So this is absolute craziness. Yeah, so I agree with you. I think he's a joke. It's really funny. Gray Davis, I think, was the governor who was recalled. He was the last one. He was the one before Schwarzenegger. And Rush used to jokingly call him Gray Out Davis because they kept having power issues with him. And now what have you had under Gavin Newsom? You've had enormous power issues.
Yeah.
And these linked, of course, to wildfires. And the wildfires
Yeah.
would not be happening if they would actually let the Forestry Service do if they would let
What they need to
conservationists
do.
do what they need to do, which is rake forests, cut down dead timber, and that sort of thing. So this is, what a disastrous. I was reading a piece this morning. How many people did LA lose last year? Tens of thousands of people.
I saw something
People
about that.
just fleeing. New York City lost 300,000 people last year.
insane.
So
Yeah.
people are fleeing. My wife and I were over in LA. This was not just that long ago, and we were struck by the homeless encampments. So you drive over and drive under an overpass.
They're everywhere.
And you'd see these things, and now they're. I saw a great set of pictures yesterday, maybe, of tent homes off the side of the interstate where they would have a makeshift even garage. There's tarps and tents, and there's a spot for the car to drive in, so it's a garage.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not what a successful state looks like.
Yeah.
California in the 60s and the 70s was, that was where to be. That was the cutting edge of the country's evolution. And now it is just blighted and benighted and just in horrible shape. So pulling Gavin Newsom out. Yeah, I think it would be a fantastic thing. It's neat to see. It's neat to see people waking up. What's super sad though is that it takes putting these people in power and these bureaucrats, this ruling class, these elites, they make their subjects' lives miserable. And it's only after that happens that people wake up.
Understand. Yeah.
And of course, that's a function of a really bad education system that hasn't taught these voters from a young age, hey, small government is better.
Yeah.
Less control is better. More local control is better. Lower taxes is better. Conservative welfare schemes are better than liberal ones. So, we've not taught our kids this.
Yeah.
And the kids grow up to vote, and they vote in people like Gavin, and then Gavin does some really stupid stuff, and then this is what happens.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Do you have any other thoughts on it? Any last thoughts on
do
it?
we think that this is going to make other Democratic governors that have really been pushing strict COVID restrictions take a step back?
Or do we because they're a little afraid that they'll end up like Newsom.
The natives are restless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally don't think so. I think that they're going to continue to do what they're doing. I hope Newsom is removed, but I don't know if you said it was 800,000 now. I don't know if that's enough.
They have to get to 1.5 million. Yeah.
Exactly.
By March.
Do you know how? So by
it's possible.
They've got
a long
Never
way to
mind.
go.
Do you remember when they launched? You may not say. I don't know.
No,
Okay,
that's
so
a great
they've
question.
got 3 months.
Yeah.
I retract that statement. I think it's quite possible actually till March. That's they've already gotten 800,000. So they have a lot of time.
Raise enough awareness about it to get them out of there.
Yeah, well, I hope so. We'll see.
This is one time that I really wish I was a California resident.
Yeah.
The one time.
The
only time.
The only time. Yeah.
All right, so talking about shifting from voting in recalls to voting in the presidential election, big news this morning. I'm going to read you, if you'll forgive me, I'm going to read you a few lines from a Western Journal piece that is actually being worked on right now. A Michigan judge ordered the release Monday of an independent forensic audit report of the Dominion voting system machines used in Antrim County. I hope I'm saying that right, Antrim County. If you remember, that was the county that flipped from a win for Democrat Joe Biden to President Donald Trump after a glitch was discovered and corrected. The audit, led by Russell Ramsland of the Dallas-based Allied Security Operations Group, revealed over a 68% ballot error rate.
Goodness.
A 68% ballot error rate. Now, that same audit claims that the Federal Election Commission, the FEC, recommends, their guidelines call for an error rate of 1 out of every 250,000 ballots. Now, the audit also claims that that is a 0.008 percentage error rate for ballots. Now, just to be clear and honest with you guys, those are not the same number. 1 in 250,000 is not 0.008. We are reaching out to Ramsland to find out where the error is there. But let's take the more conservative figure. Let's say that the 0.008 percentage rate is the more conservative figure. If that is true, then what we saw in Antrim County is about 85,000 times the FEC guideline. 85,000 times the FEC guideline that the audit report cites. So, let me read just a couple of other lines to you, and I apologize again. Additionally, Ramsland's team reported the, quote, extremely suspicious absence of logs regarding the abnormally high number of digitally adjudicated Antrim County see here. Votes. We've got a line missing. I'm going to presume that word was votes. If you remember, if you were watching with us Friday, we showed you video from Coffee County, Georgia, where we saw how Dominion machines can be used to adjudicate votes and to create votes out of nothing if you have a blank ballot, or to change a ballot that has an error on it, simply change all the votes on that ballot if they'd like. So the audit report, there are questions about it. One thing that bothers me is that they don't have the 1 in 250,000 and 0.008 percentage point conversion. They don't have that right. That raises a flag for me. That said, that to the side, this is still significant. 68% of ballots having some sort of an issue. That is stunning.
That's
to
a lot.
me.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. If the three of us cast a vote, that means 2 of our ballots would have problems. I mean, that's a huge issue for democracy.
Yeah.
I would think. Deborah, do you have any thoughts, just broad, random thoughts on this?
Well, absolutely. When we were talking on Friday and when we saw those videos, I was just absolutely astounded at just how easy it is to go in and make changes that seemingly nobody is held accountable for. They made a point in those videos that it doesn't even show specifically who was the person that went in and changed them. And so I think that for them to have an error rate this large, and what did you say at the beginning, that they were talking about how there wasn't a specific person that they could point to the logs.
No accountability. Basically.
So the way, and presuming that Antrim County used the same Dominion software and machines that Coffee County in Georgia used. So basically what happens is the scanner scans a stack of ballots called a batch. And if there's a problem with a ballot in there, it flags it, and then the election supervisor can go in and can fix the ballot or can fix the ballot. And the problem with this is it doesn't track which ballot. According to what, Misty Martin, that was the election supervisor's name. According to her, it doesn't track the specific ballot, so you can't go back later and see, oh, this is the ballot that was adjudicated. You just see that, oh, in this stack of 10 ballots or 50 ballots or whatever, there were some ballots adjudicated. As far as we could tell, it doesn't even show how many were adjudicated. So maybe you have a batch of 199 of them get adjudicated, and you've got another batch of 100 and only one of them get adjudicated, and you can't tell. They look the same. As far as we can tell from those videos. So this is super. This is super troubling. So let's kind of combine the situations here. Let's say that everything is the same in Antrim County as in Coffee County in Georgia. That would have meant 2 out of every 3 votes could have been changed by an election supervisor. And now the way this is supposed to work is you're supposed to have an election supervisor, you're supposed to have a Republican a representative watching and a Democrat person watching, and just right there able to view what's going on, which makes sense. And I think we'd all be a lot more comfortable if we could verify that had happened, but it's very challenging to verify that happened. So, and in fact, what Misty Martin showed us was her in the office. She part of the video actually showed her in the office by herself, and you really can't tell what she's doing there.
If you leave the room and you're just looking in, who knows what she's been putting.
Exactly. So Sarah, what do you think about all this? I mean, 68%. If the more conservative stat that the auditors used is right, this is 85,000 times higher than what the FEC guidelines call for. What do you think?
You know, honestly, I'm not surprised at all by this. We've seen a lot of cases of voter fraud and issues with the systems that they're using to count the ballots. So this is not surprising to me. I would just hope that the right steps are taken to figure out the problem and hold people accountable. I think we need to see names being called out, this person is responsible for this issue.
It's going to be hard when the audit trail is
revealed and uncovered. So I think if we start to have some names and holding people accountable, I think other places will kind of buckle down and be like, oh my gosh, we have to figure this out. We don't want to be in trouble or be embarrassed,
That's been my hope in all of this. Back in 2000, Florida was an absolute nightmare. I mean, just it was a disaster.
Yeah.
But they did finally get their act together. And there is a question of whether or not they fixed the system or if it was just having DeSantis in charge, somebody who was actually competent. But Florida, which has been horrible in the past, they got it right this year.
Yeah.
That should be a wake-up call to everyone that look, we can conduct elections in a reasonable manner. But you not only need a good system, you need good people in charge as well.
Exactly.
And it remains to be seen whether that happened.
Yeah.
this
It's like
time
any
around.
job,
There are
really.
a lot of people who are very skeptical of it.
You need to hold people accountable. Like any
Right.
job, you have people that are in charge to see what's going on, and this is the elections, this is extremely important.
Leader of the free world. Yeah, leader
right.
of
The people's voices are being represented. And I think, like I said earlier, if we hold people accountable like any other job, we wouldn't be having a lot of these issues.
Yeah. President Reagan used to say, trust but verify. And
Yep.
I think that's all anybody wants in this. We want to believe that everything went according to the numbers. We also want to see verification
Right.
that it went according to the numbers.
Yeah.
And to the extent that these guys are right, that Allied Security Operations Group is correct, it doesn't look like things went by the numbers there. So lots of stuff happening today, folks. We've also got sort of late breaking. We're working on this right now as well. It looks like Governor Whitmer in Michigan, it looks like she's using the police to actually bar GOP electors from the Capitol, which is very interesting too. So we're looking into that. There's lots going on right now.
You gotta
Big
love
stuff.
Whitmer.
Yeah. She was one of the ones I thought of when I can't remember who asked. Is this going to? I think you asked. Is this going to put the fear in other politicians?
Exactly.
And
Whitmer, Cuomo, Lightfoot, all of these people.
Yeah.
All those lovely people.
All these lovely people.
Yeah, and I generally think they are so tone deaf and unable to read the room that they don't realize the people may be coming for them. But you have to wonder with somebody like Gretchen. You have to wonder. As angry as people are, and then you see like the gym owner in New Jersey, he's just furious at Phil Murray, the governor there. I think he's up to maybe $1.5 million in fines. This one
He's been
gym
Saw
racking
that,
owner.
yeah.
But the guy's just trying to keep his people employed. He's trying to keep his livelihood out there. It's a great opportunity for the left. It's a chance to shut down small businesses. It's a chance to make people more dependent on the government, to make them. Orwell said that you should have, to imagine the future, think of a boot stamping on the face of humanity forever and ever.
Yeah.
And it feels less like that, more like a mask being stuck being pushed onto the face.
COVID 1984.
Literally.
Exactly. That's what this feels like. They're making people more and more dependent on the state, and they're using it to accrete more power to the state. So things to worry about. But anyway, interesting stuff's going on. If you watched the Jericho Wall march over the weekend, General Flynn was there. He said there's still a number of avenues being pursued. He didn't elaborate on that. It's an interesting thought. So we will see what happens. Tune in tomorrow for more coverage of whatever the latest development is. There's no telling at this point. But remember, WJ Live comes to you Monday through Friday live, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. I say that, then this is our last week before our Christmas hiatus.
Yep.
WJ Live will be taking a break for a week or two. The Western Journal, however, will be here through that entire time. We will be producing content, getting you the latest news and commentary on whatever is happening in the country. A couple of housekeeping things. If you're watching on YouTube, right there, it just popped up. If you're watching on YouTube, youtube.com/WJ Live is the URL. When you get there, click subscribe. After you click subscribe, there will be the option to click on a little bell.
Ding.
Ding.
Michael tried saying it right. Yeah.
that we click that bell. That's going to make sure you get notified when we go live. That'll help with shadow banning. Additionally, we appreciate your support. Thank you for watching. If you ever feel inclined to support us in some way other than watching, please go to westernjournal.com/join. westernjournal.com/join. There are a couple of different ways you can support us there. And we're just thankful you're here watching us. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you supporting us. If you'd like to do more and feel led to, go to westernjournal.com/join and you can support us there as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same YouTube channel, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thanks.
See you guys.
Hey guys, huge story. We need a fresh card. Let's red label it. Roll as fast as we can.
All right, on it. Sounds good. All right, guys, we got a red label breaking story. Can we get a picture for that? And can we try to get that out in the next 20 minutes? I want eyes on it as soon as possible.
On it, Joe. 2 more minutes and we'll be live.
Sam, we're going to need a slot for that story, so figure out what you want to bump. Ashley, we're going to want it translated into Spanish yesterday.
Sí, señor. We can slide it in at 2:30. It should be going out here in about 10 minutes.